We'd like to welcome you to the 34th Annual M Club Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. Glad you braved the weather to show up here. The weatherman's promised me that as the day progresses here, it's going to get better. So that's a good thing. It's always football weather, and it's always Pete Knox weather, right? Before we get started here, we'd like to ask President Wyatt to come up and give us a few comments.
Thank you, John. I will be brief because the stars of the show today are our three honorees. Homecoming is such a wonderful weekend, especially on this campus, because through a whole series of events, our board meeting, Board of Trustees meetings on Thursday and yesterday morning, and the Hall of Achievement, the Alumni Impact Award ceremonies last night, through conversations between alumni and former faculty and staff, mentors and friends, through this wonderful event, all through this weekend, through the random conversations that take place among friends at the football game or at alumni reunion gatherings or at various establishments around town. We are reminded of what is special about Monmouth College. And it's a commitment to excellence, it's a commitment to achievement, it's a commitment to perseverance, and it's a commitment to community. And these three honorees today all exemplify those qualities. We're proud of our athletic tradition at Monmouth. It is just one powerful example of the special nature of this institution, and Moby and I are proud to be a part of it. We congratulate all three of the honorees today. Thank Coach Haynes for all the work that he does to put this event together and all the great work that he does on campus. And so now, let me turn it back over to John, and we'll proceed with the ceremony. Congratulations.
Thank you, President Wyatt. And now we'll have some opening remarks, and we'll go straight into our first presentation with from Coach Haynes.
Thank you, Coach Haynes. I knew I could count on you. Thank you. One in every crowd. Good morning to everyone. Thanks, John. Thank you, President Wyatt, for your welcome and your continued support of Monmouth Athletics. As Director of Athletics at Monmouth, I want to welcome all of our guests and old friends to campus for a wonderful weekend of activity. 35th class reunion for me, so everybody's asking, all the kids ask me what I'm doing for homecoming. Unfortunately, I have to go out with a bunch of old people tonight, so classmates. The homecoming parade will travel down East Broadway this morning at 11, and of course at 2 p.m. today, we invite you to watch the 129th Bronze Turkey game versus Knox College out at April's Orange Stadium. Probably the best news I've had in quite a while happened yesterday afternoon in Green Bay. Our women's soccer team beat St. Norbert in a shootout after 2 overtimes to go to the conference championship game today. And that game is online on monmouthscots.edu on the schedule page. That contest will be online at 6 p.m. tonight. So if you're not going to be entertained, so as I said, I welcome old friends and new of Fighting Scott Athletics to visit many of the sites on our campus this weekend. Feel free to linger after the ceremony this morning. The permanent home of the Fighting Scott Athletic Hall of Fame is just down the hallway to my left. I'd like to thank each of those of you who have contributed to the Fighting Scott Society in recent years. Your generous gifts have allowed us to purchase items such as scoreboards for soccer, softball, and baseball, a new sound system for Peacock Park, and later today you can stop in downstairs and see the new Kane varsity team room located just below us in the Huff Center that I think our students are enjoying very much. Funds are currently being raised through the Fighting Scott Society for updates and improvements to the Trotter Fitness Center. People don't realize this building still looks very good, but we've been in here since 2003, so it was time for some updates. The college and the Fighting Scott Society have been very supportive of those. You can also see the final stages of installation to the new Mondo track surface downstairs that's going on in the Huff Center that should be finished sometime next week. Athletics continue to be a big part of the experience for many students on the Monmouth campus. Over 45% of our student body right now are participating in one or more of our 24 varsity offerings. A great deal of momentum for our sports currently at Monmouth can be directly traced to the three individuals who are being inducted into the Monmouth College Athletic Hall of Fame today. Their careers include many highlights and tales that I'm sure you'll hear about in their speeches today. Brief bit of information about why these three are well worthy of consideration and induction into the Monmouth Athletic Hall of Fame. Blake Boma came to Monmouth College from Harrisburg, Illinois. He proceeded to earn 16 Midwest Conference titles in track and field, leading his team to indoor and outdoor conference title sweeps each season during his Midwest Conference career. However, it was a national meet where Blake earned his highest accolades as a two-time All-American, winning the NCAA National Championship in the 400 hurdles in his final Monmouth College race, and his finest. Nicole Claire Baker shined for the Scots as a two-time All-Conference golfer, helping the 2002 women's golf team to the school's first Midwest Conference women's golf title. On the softball diamond, Nicole also carried a .373 career batting average, earning her 3 All-Midwest Conference softball honors. I think she hit like .420 one year, but it might have been when she's a sophomore, so I didn't want to bring up why she didn't hit .420. See, probably pitched around here, right? Yeah, girl. Scots won a record 22 games during her junior season. Steve Glasgow literally grew up a fighting Scot, so his success on the field and court came as no surprise to most Monmouth fans. Sister Kim probably doesn't remember it, but I can remember Steve just barely learning to walk during men's basketball practice. He tipped off the high jump pits in the old Monmouth College gym and screamed and cried incessantly, and his father didn't bother to even break practice. He just turned and yelled at Kim why Steve was crying. So that was the start of Steve's Monmouth career. A lot of hits on the head. Two-time All-Conference center fielder, Steve was also a 4-time All-Midwest Conference guard for the Fighting Scots basketball team. His basketball stat line reads an impressive 1,155 points scored. His 261 assists and 111 steals ranked 4th and 5th all times in Fighting Scot basketball history. So today, congratulations to Blake, Nicole, and Steve as they're inducted into the Monmouth Athletic Hall of Fame. So I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Blake Boma today for the Hall of Fame. Blake was a Monmouth class of 2005. He came to us from the deep south, Harrisburg, Illinois. They have a different way of doing things down there, right, folks? A better way, probably. In his Monmouth track career, a few of his statistics. He still owns the school 55-meter record at 6.47. Going to be for all time because they don't run the 55 anymore, so you'll always be there. Had a lifetime best in the 55 hurdles of 7.62, and he was a key member of multiple Midwest Conference champion 4x2 and 4x400 relays. It just dawned on me that Ortez, one of his former teammates, is here, and they may have been the two hardest-headed guys that I ever coached at the same time. And Ortez is from Carbondale, so it's something south of a certain line in Illinois, right? Outdoors, Blake was conference champion at 100 meters in 10.78, and he had a lifetime best in the 400 hurdles of 51.78. He was also on important conference championship 4x1 and 4x400 relays. He was recognized by Midwest Conference coaches 4 times as a Midwest Conference Outstanding Performer of Outdoor and Indoor Championship track meets. 2 times indoor in 2004 and 2005, 2 times outdoors also in 2004 and 2005. As I mentioned earlier, it was at the NCAA level where he made his biggest mark. In 2004, he was the NCAA 3rd place finisher in the 400 hurdles, behind the 2nd fastest time in D3 history. That guy's time was second only to the legendary Edwin Moses, who was the eventual world record holder, who was a D3 runner back when. In 2005, Blake was the NCAA national champion at the 400 hurdles with his personal best time of 51.78, where he truly saved his best for last. That weekend, Blake and Zach Barr combined for 20 team points as Zach won the 3,000 steeplechase. That put the Fighting Scots in a 12th place national finish. I'm interested that Blake asked me, I'm proud and interested that Blake asked me to introduce him. I think maybe he thinks I have some insight. I'm sure he wants me to say a couple pleasant things, and I have no problem doing that. Let it suffice to say that Blake was an interesting athlete to coach. Permanent wraparound sunglasses when we raced outdoors, whether the sun was out or not. Not exactly my style, but that's okay. We were good with it. He might have shaved his legs once or twice. I'm assuming that was for aerodynamics. Just clean about anything. It was a different era back then. Probably what I remember most is that Blake tended to spend a lot of time looking around at the finish line when he knew he was in first place. It'd be a quick glance both directions just to make sure that nobody was there. We had our ups and downs from time to time. It really never was a huge deal for me. It might have been for Blake on some days, but it really wasn't for me because there were far more ups than there ever were downs in my memory. Blake always had a clear plan for what he wanted to accomplish. He set the lofty goal of a national title for himself very early. He had to work extremely hard to be the best in the nation with 400 hurdles. He was a good high school athlete, but he was far from what I would say was accomplished, and definitely not a national champion caliber guy coming out of school. And it was largely his work, almost entirely his work, that got that done. In the prelims and the finals of 2005 in Iowa, he left no doubt that in fact he was the best in the nation. He started fast, he opened up a sizable lead, and really never was challenged in that championship finals race. He was a tremendously versatile track athlete. It's hard to be great at 55 meters and 100 meters and have your main race be the 400 hurdles. Those are very different abilities and a very different mentality as well as very different training. So I was always proud of the fact that he gave up for the team in the sprint races. He liked it because he had a chance to win those races at the Midwest Conference meet, and that was his favorite thing. But clearly the 400 hurdles were his focus. He possessed special skills that allowed him to succeed in a great range of events for the Fighting Scots, and our team is what it's always about for us. I hope Blake understands how much I appreciated his boldness and especially his confidence, because that never faltered. I'll leave you with one quick story that I tell often about Blake, and it's not about his NCAA title race. We were down for the conference meet his senior year at Illinois College. They had a sprinter who was fairly good and thought he was better than he was. I was over on the backstretch watching the triple jump, and this sprinter, I won't say his name, walked down the backstretch, and Blake and Blake's teammate Tyler Rundle were getting ready to run 200 meters, I think, right? And the IC kid asked Blake how he thought the indoor 200 final would go. So you have to envision on our track back here, they're about where the long jump pit is, about 70 meters into the race from the start line down the backstretch. So the Illinois College kid says, "Hey Bowman, how's this 200 gonna go?" Blake pointed and replied, "Right about here, you're gonna see our backs." And that's the last thing you'll see until the finish line. He was correct. Extremely proud of Blake during his career, even more proud of Blake in his post-Monmouth career. He's always been about family. He's even more so about family now, having his own as a father. He's always had a great support system, and I'm confident now that he's a great parent. And if he's not, somebody needs to talk to him and make sure that we'll have a conversation about that today as well. So it's my pleasure to present the 2005 NCAA 400 meter hurdle national champion for induction into the 2017 Fighting Scott Athletic Hall of Fame, Mr. Blake Bowman.
Good morning, everybody. First off, let me say how honored I am to join Nicole and Steve in this. Joining them to the Hall of Fame today. Congratulations to both of you on this great accomplishment. Today is a special day, and I feel privileged to be here and recognized. I am truly humbled by it. Sorry. I would like to thank Monmouth College and the committee for the decision to induct me into the Indianapolis Hall of Fame. It's an incredible honor. It's something I always reflect on with great pride. I always cherish the memories and the friends that I made during these years. I want to thank everybody that supported me and guided me through the way. I'd like to recognize my spouse, Katie, and my daughter, Kendall. Pardon my thought, guys. Sorry. The future hurdler on our hands will me that were at the track meets throughout my career. I had a great time in classes. Just like to thank you for your support. I'd like to acknowledge my stepmom and my dad. Fortunately, Dad can't be here right now due to surgery and illness. Pat and Sandy, my brother, sister-in-law, my nieces. Travel pretty much throughout the Midwest, long trips throughout my career. Be forever grateful for your attendance here today as well. I'd like to thank my mother who supported me in high school in my endeavors to run track. She invested heavily. She allowed me to go to camps at major schools during the summer. She traveled my meets in high school, big meets in college, dragging grandma and my aunt along the way to cheer me on. All things achieved here at this great school are as a result of her influence and direction. We'll be forever indebted to that. Without the proper training program, an athlete can fail to achieve results unless left to their own endeavors. The result of success is not only an individual's will and desire to succeed, but also a combination of teammates and great coaches to surround them. I'd like to acknowledge my coach in high school, Coach Holler, who encouraged me to partake in track and field and lighting the fire to continue in track in college. As Coach mentioned, Cortez Davis is here. We were competitors throughout high school. We took different paths and eventually ended up here at Vaughn together. It was great to have a familiar face and a former competitor turned teammate when I arrived. I owe a lot of success to him for pushing me during many workouts. Ones like promptly after a winter snow here in Monmouth, Coach Haynes busting his tail out shoveling off ice and snow, prepping for our Baylor 200s that afternoon. Or during track meets, where it was nerve-wracking to get into blocks adjacent to Cortez. A dear friend and former teammate, I'm thankful for him joining us here today for the ceremony. Last but not least, I'd like to recognize my coaches. Coach Woodard, who I believe is at a cross-country meet today, recruiting his infectious excitement on the track with his throwers. It's hard not to feed off of that. Coach Staggs, our hurdles coach, his calm business approach. Sophomore year at the conference meet, in the 400s, he approached me, told me that I could be a national champion. That's something that never really entered my mind until that moment. Most importantly, Coach Haynes, by far the most important individual to me, responsible for all performances. Year in, year out, Coach was balanced to endure a large quantity of new personalities and guide them to success, balancing education and athletics. He was extremely patient and supportive in my development. Coach was strategic in planning. Each year, every championship meet I competed in, it was a personal best. Every event, as well as my teammates. Ultimately, I would never have reached the success and the magnitude I have and been in this position today to accept this humbling award if it were not for his guidance. As I said earlier, this is an incredible honor, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Now to introduce Nicole Claire Baker, we have our high school coach, David Arnold. David.
Good morning, Fighting Scots, family, and friends. feeling like I won the Triple Crown. First of all, I'm a proud alumnus of Monmouth College. I'm thrilled to be back on the campus where I met my beautiful and loving wife, Julie Caldwell, of 52 years, and where I was a Fighting Scott basketball player. I didn't have the stats that Steve did, but I gave out assists to two former teammates whose pictures are already on the wall in there, Bud Roberts and Jerry Mell. Secondly, I am a proud grandfather of Casey Moran, a freshman on the women's soccer team. The Fighting Scots, who are playing tonight against who else? Knox College for the championship of the Midwest Conference and a chance to go to the D3 NCAAs, which would be a first for them. Thirdly, I am a proud high school freshman basketball coach of Nicole McClare Baker, who today is being inducted into the M Club Hall of Fame. Now, I only coached Nicole for about 4 months back in 1966 when she was a freshman and she tried out for the basketball team. I quickly discovered what a great athlete she was. She was a good basketball player, but she was a great competitor. Her never say die, dive on the floor for loose balls, leave it all on the court attitude permeated her performances both in practice and in games. Nicole was a coach's dream. She listened attentively, she worked tirelessly on her skills, and she inspired her teammates to a higher level throughout the season. Her varsity basketball coach, Brenda Weitzel, said of Nicole, she was dedicated in the classroom as she was on the field. Her work ethic was second to none, which pushed her teammates to follow the example she set on a daily basis. Nicole was a great athlete, but more importantly, she was a great teammate. Her varsity softball coach, Tom Rocco, said of Nicole, she had a great attitude and was a great example for underclassmen. Nicole had only one speed, and that was top speed. She was always encouraging other players and was like having a coach on the field, a joy to coach. Now, I supported and encouraged Nicole during her remaining years of high school basketball at Hinsdale South, and I talked with her and her parents on several occasions about my experiences as a D3 athlete, the solid liberal arts education I received, and my love for Monmouth College. When Nicole chose Monmouth, I was extremely pleased and proud that I had some influence in her decision-making process. Now, I knew in high school that she participated in other sports than basketball, golf, and softball. However, it wasn't until I started reading and continued reading the Scott Scoop newsletter from Barry McNamara that I discovered just how good she was in those other sports. At the 2002 Midwest Conference Golf Meet as a sophomore, she earned all conference honors with a 10th place finish as the Scots captured the team title. Nicole repeated those all Midwest Conference honors as a senior and had a career low round of 86. On the softball diamond, wow, Nicole batted .420 as a freshman. Not as a sophomore, as a freshman. And earned one of her 3 all Midwest Conference softball honors. She finished her career with a .373 batting average, and while being a sure-handed star shortstop, her offensive stats far outweigh and surpass her defensive prowess. Nicole's name is all over the list of the top 10 career offensive marks at Monmouth, including 3rd in runs, which she had 95, in doubles, she had 30, 5th in slugging at .576 average, hits, she had 135, RBIs 75, steals 25, and she was 6th in homers with 13. major factor in enabling both the golf and softball teams to reach lofty heights, including the only Midwest Conference title for the women's golf team at the time of her education. I saw this year's ESPY Awards early in the summer, and one of the presentations or presenters stated that every athlete in the room could look back at least one coach or person who had an impact in their life that made them the great athlete that they were. I am extremely humbled and honored to have been one of those coaches for a very special young woman. One of this year's Dent Club Hall of Fame inductees, and it is with great pride and honor that I introduce to you Dr. Nicole Claire Baker.
Thank you, Coach Arnold. As Coach said, he is an alum of Monmouth, and he is a very loyal alum, and was one of the first people to introduce me to this school. His outgoing, personable attitude and steadfast commitment are two qualities that he shares with many MC alumni. So not only was Coach excited that I was coming to Monmouth, I was excited as well as a freshman, knowing that I could be a student athlete. More so now than I did back then, I value the interdisciplinary opportunities that Monmouth faculty and staff create for students, impelling them to become well-rounded individuals with strong intellectual foundation after matriculation. As I was preparing to graduate back in 2004, I was visiting various science departments at universities to try and get into graduate school. During these recruitment sessions, there are multiple meetings with professors and rounds of interviews. I had an interview with a professor who was the department chair of the graduate program and had not only intimidating research, but rumor around the other graduate students was he had a personality to match. So off I went to this interview. It was pretty typical until he asked me why I thought I would be able to succeed going right into a doctoral program, since he had seen many candidates from larger, more specialized undergraduate programs who had failed. Very nervous, I started going through my personal strengths, but it wasn't until I got to look back at my transcript that I was able to sway him. I can still remember him saying as he held these papers, "Wait, you were a two-sport athlete with these grades in classes and laboratories? Never mind, you'll be able to handle this fine." What that professor recognized, thankfully, is that to be a successful student athlete, it takes a person with a certain kind of work ethic, determination, and passion. Those qualities benefited me greatly then, and I am proud to be here with fellow inductees who also share those merits. Unfortunately, what that professor didn't see, and what you can't really see today, as the three of us stand here, is the fellowship from our coaches, teammates that also carried us. I wish they could all be up here, although there are a few. I saw Molly is here with me. Every student athlete that has walked through these doors, past and present, can attest to the stress, the late nights, the matches lost, and even personal injuries that have the potential to drain and dishearten you. However, when you have dedicated coaches and are truly a part of a team, there is a drive inside that develops and a fervor that motivates you to push yourself just a little bit further, and keep going than you think you can go. You become like a family, taking care of each other, taking pleasure in your teammates' enthusiasm and in successes. That's what I remember and will hold on to the most from being a student athlete. So for me today is an opportunity to formally say thank you. Thank you to my family, who yet again has traveled out here to Monmouth, who gave so much of themselves and their time to impart in me a love for sports and provide opportunities where my interests could be nurtured. Thank you to Monmouth for this honor and for all the immeasurable gifts of my 4 years that they brought me. Thank you to the coaches who mentored me and worked so hard to facilitate an environment of camaraderie and challenge me to continuously grow. And finally, a thank you to the teammates who encouraged me to push myself further and made it a joy to play here at Monmouth. Thank you very much.
Well, folks, I've just been informed that they've moved up to parade, and so that's really all the time we have today. You guys come back next year? Actually, Coach Glasgow, you want to wait for Susie, or should we go ahead and get started? Oh, she's here. Okay, good. Awesome. Here to introduce Steve Glasgow is, everyone knows him, coach, former athletic director, and Dr. Terry Glasgow.
Well, as all of you know, I usually prepare notes, but this is going to be extemporaneous. Usually, I start off by picking out somebody out of the crowd to pick on. That person arrived today, and so I'm going to get him in a minute. But before I do that, I want to introduce two people who are responsible for this particular group. And first, I want to introduce Dr. William Axline. Where are you, Bill? He was here earlier. I don't know where he went to the restroom and then maybe at the other ceremony. Okay. And this is Jane Pratt. Jane, stand up. Come on. Let me tell you why I'm introducing those folks. I was a part of help building this facility, planning and so forth. And when we finished it near 203, we were planning on somewhat a room to have for honoring folks like these today. And our former business manager says, Terry, President Easy was here, says, we've exhausted every avenue of giving. There's nobody out there. I said, let me make a call. He said, don't waste your time. We've made every call you can possibly make. So I said, give me a chance. And President Easy says, go for it, Terry. So I made a phone call to the Roseville connection, the Axlines, and the Pratts. And I said, we need about $50,000. And I think it was Jane's husband, or maybe it was Bill or Jane, went up and said, how soon do you need it? And I thought, Jesus, that was easy. He said, let me call you back tomorrow. They called back, and that Hall of Fame room that you see down there is directly derivative of the generosity of Jane, Channing, Bill, and Joanne Axline. But I thank them very much, and I want to recognize them for their continued loyalty to Monmouth College. As I told you, I always pick out somebody. Last year it was Harvey Eccles. He came all the way from Jacksonville, Florida. Dr. Eccles is a surgeon. And he had a great ability to be the worst second baseman in the history of Monmouth College baseball. He was always on the team. And I kind of found out later on that the reason he was so bad is because he left practice halfway through and went to the music department and played some instrument over there. I don't know what it was. And he never really finished the practice. Today, as I walked in, I looked and I said, God, I know that guy. And I look up and there is Doug Hughes. He became known as Monmouth as Hollywood Hughes. And let me tell you why he was. When I first arrived here, I was very laid back and mild-mannered and came out of the Division I program. And the first time I ever put Doug Hughes into a game, his fans were up in the balcony in the old gym cheering and just clapping like mad because he got in. He must have been 85 points ahead. And he got the ball at the half court. Boom, he let it fly. I mean, it was a legitimate 53-foot half-court shot. I lost him. I just went ballistic. fast enough to push him up and get his butt out of there. But he came out and he was so happy, his fans were happy. He never scored a point, but he's here today. He came all the way, Harvey came from Jacksonville, Florida. Doug must have come all the way from Roseville. But he's back there, and it's always good to see guys like that show up. I want to congratulate both Nicole and Blake on their achievements. When I arrived here in 1972, I didn't do like Coach Haynes did. I decided I was going to recruit every good athlete in a 150-mile radius of this campus. I didn't care whether they were scholarship or who they were, I was going after them. And I did. And we were fairly successful. After 36 years of being a coach here, 800 wins or more, 15 to 20 conference championships, a number of NCAA appearances. We were able to get the kinds of kids that I usually characterize as the kind of young men that I wanted my daughters to bring home. And we did. And they were very good. They're good students, hard-nosed, tough kids. A little bit later, after we were having some success, I decided that maybe we needed to go a step further and establish the Hall of Fame. One of our most accomplished alums, a dear friend of mine, an assistant coach, a former athlete, a young man who won an appointment to the Air Force Academy, Paul Love and I contrived the Hall of Fame. We wanted to have some organization at Monmouth College that would bring those people back to the campus. We wanted them to come back and stay involved in the life of the campus, stay involved in the financial backing of the campus, and we figured that if we had a way to honor and recognize them after their athletic achievements, this would be a wonderful way to do it. So we contrived the Hall of Fame, and what you see here today and what you can see in the room back there is a tribute to those people and those folks. Now I want to talk about Steve Glasgow. He told me when I got up here that I only had 2 minutes, and I said, that's a bunch of crap, that ain't going to happen. So they always put me last because I guess I'm the most windy of all of the presenters. My presentation generally is always an extemporaneous presentation. I usually have notes, but I never follow them. So today I want to talk about Steve. When Steve was born, I wanted him to be similar to the kinds of kids that I've been recruiting. Steve was born in 1979, and I wanted him to come into this world and have the kind of values that I thought were important for a Monmouth College student athlete. Those values included a solid value system, and I knew full well that one of the two ways you could do that is either join the military or stay involved in sports. And Steve fortunately failed his eye test when he tried to join the Navy and become a Navy SEAL, and he did not fail his athletic test. He joined our teams here and was very, very good. Obviously, I wanted all of our student athletes to be good academically. Steve was very, very good. As I used to razz him, I went to college for 9 years, and he said, well, it took you that long to get your baccalaureate degree. I wasn't quite that way, but nevertheless, Steve was very successful getting academic accomplishments. He has a bachelor's degree from Monmouth. He has a master's degree from Western Illinois, and he has a law degree from Thomas Cooley Law School in East Lansing, Michigan. And he was always serious about his academics, and obviously the degrees attest to that. The one thing I knew from all of my education and my experiences was that strength was the one thing that allowed all other things to exist. I know there are people on this campus today, and there were when I was here, that did not necessarily subscribe to that, but I always felt that physical strength, mental strength, emotional strength, academic strength, financial strength, military strength, all of those things were important if individuals and institutions, and for this matter, this country was going to exist. And so I tried to make sure that Steve was successful in some of those areas. Steve is a physically tough kid. I know those people who played with him know that. I watched him play with broken bones. I watched him play with injuries. He's physically strong. Steve used to complain a lot because I pushed him in those directions. But as most of you know, some of you may not, that Steve is a mixed martial arts professional fighter. I used to think Steve was smart, but when he got into that cage fighting, I kind of backed up a step or two on that and didn't think he was near as smart as I thought he was. Steve had a professional record of 10 and 1. I had a pleasure of watching him get his butt beat in his only loss. When some kid from, I don't know where the hell he's from, just took you to task. He choked you out. But anyway, he was a tough guy. Steve also, you know, he used to, when I got him up, I wanted him to have a good work ethic. And Steve started off, he wanted this Jeep. He found this Jeep, we both found it up in the Quad Cities one day. It was a red one, it was nice, 1988 or something like that. And Steve thought he would look really cool in it. And the biggest mistake, he was going to look cool, but I wasn't going to pay for it. So he said, Dad, excuse me, I've got to have a job. I said, yeah, I think you do. And I said, okay, we're going to start cutting grass. So I got him a job at Monmouth Memorial Park out there. And he would get up every morning. I'd wake him up at 5:30. He had to be out there at 6. And he pushed a hand mower all over that park for 8 hours a day. And then we had a couple of yards in the city of Monmouth that were big, and Steve mowed those. And I don't know what you end up making, about $5,000. No idea. Oh, he didn't worry about money. No idea. But we bought that Jeep. And so he started driving that Jeep back and forth. We thought he really did good. And he stayed in that Jeep for a couple of years. It was a good-looking Jeep. It was red. It had the top down. He looked pretty cool in it. And then one day he found this little brunette that looked cooler than his Jeep. So he traded his Jeep off and got another car, and so he could date girls, I guess. I don't know what the purpose of it was, but he did get that. He also, you know, I'd come in there and say to him, Steve, we've got to go over to the gym. And he was fortunate to have a father who had a key to his building. And so we went over to the gym, and there were days after he'd worked 6 or 8 hours in the sun and he was hot and tired, he didn't want to do it. I said, Steve, I said, what in the hell do you think those guys at the Century Woods and Rock Island are doing this morning? They're not laying in their bed. They're out there playing basketball or playing baseball. Those guys at Moline and Warden Fieldhouse, they're busy. And he would grin and he'd get up and away we'd come over here, and maybe Coach Haynes was a part of that then. We'd hit 5 or 6 buckets of balls, 50 balls in a bucket. He'd swing the bat 300 times. We'd go down in the gym and he'd shoot 100 jump shots, 30 off the dribble, 30 off the rocker step, and 30 off the crossover and all that stuff. And when he went home, he didn't go out and party, he went to sleep. And he did that, and he earned every bit of the money for that Jeep. And so his work ethic is fairly well ingrained. I was always impressed that he never, ever looked for an excuse. One of the things that Steve had the misfortune of was having his father, who was a coach and teacher, and had a background that wasn't necessarily conducive to being gentlemanly all the time. I never let Steve feel sorry for himself. He didn't take any classes in excusology or victimology, and there weren't any comfort rooms at our house, no puppies and more milk. We got after him, and we pretty much stayed on that. He was not going to be, in the vernacular of the day, a snowflake. He was going to be a hard-nosed, tough kid who didn't make excuses and didn't offer to accept him. And Steve was pretty much that way. He was a 15-year-old kid, and when he started working in that cemetery, he worked really hard, and for that I'm proud. He never blamed others, never asked for excuses. In fact, probably one of the greatest compliments I can give Steve came from Dave Arsenault at Grinnell College. Any of you are familiar with the Grinnell basketball system? Dave's retiring this year, so you won't see that craziness anymore. But we played over there one night, and we played in double overtime or something. And I don't expect the president will be too happy to hear me say this, but they used to block off the whole section behind Monmouth bench because we were the team that they had the most trouble with. And they wouldn't let their fans sit there, and they had a big crowd because we were there. And they were all dragged out in yellow shirts. And Dee Fairchild, the athletic director at the time, said, boy, I said, what are all those bleachers behind me doing? Oh, let those people sit there. She said, no, we let people. I said, oh yeah, you let them come down here. And okay, well, needless to say, their football team filled up behind that bench. They were tough. And they were tough on Steve. He was, from minute one, he was daddy's boy. And they were on him. And we were struggling and going. We had a hard time. And finally, I happened to turn around and I looked right into the face of one of the big 280-pound, 3'8" tackles. And I said, hey, in a minute, I'm going to send Daddy's boy up to see you. Anyway, after the game, Steve, we lost. And Dave Arsenault came up and said, you know, I want to tell you something. That son of yours is a warrior. I got 3 kids in the locker room who are exhausted. We spent the entire night trying to chase him around. Steve played the whole game and maybe 2 overtimes, didn't come out 1 minute. And if he played against Grinnell in the system they have, ladies and gentlemen, that is an accomplishment. And Steve was just, he was a warrior. There was no question about it. And Arsenault said he's just one tough kid, and I can't tell you how impressed I am with his performance tonight. And for that on, I always thought that's something else. As an athlete, you know, I don't need to attest or spell out Steve's accomplishments. They speak for themselves. He was a 2-sport athlete in high school, and he could have been a 3-sport athlete in high school. Some of his coaches thought he could have been an all-conference quarterback at Galesburg. But he was one of their leading hitters. He batted 3rd. He was one of their leading scorers in basketball. They went to 2nd in the state tournament in Illinois in the big school tournament. Steve was one of the top players on that particular team. When he came to Monmouth, he was all-conference in 2 sports a number of years. He was an 1,000-point scorer, as Roger attested earlier. He scored 1,155 points or something like that. I was amazed to hear someone say he got an assist. I never saw it. I don't think his teammates ever did. I don't think he ever passed the ball, but someone said he did. And then he won a batting championship in his sophomore year as a hitter. He was a very, very good hitter, a compact hitter, and he was a good hitter in high school. And just an outstanding athlete, and I'm not going to slobber all over him anymore. I'm going to use up my 2 minutes and say, this is a guy that I envision the Hall of Fame being designed to honor. He is a versatile, well-rounded, academically oriented, capable, tough, hard-nosed kid who didn't offer excuses and did not accept it. It's my son and my pleasure to introduce Stephen Glasgow.
Before I get started with my remarks, I do want to address something that you said to the crowd. I wasn't always so academically inclined as my father would like to believe. And one time in particular, I believe I was a sophomore in college, get a phone call from Kathy. She answered the phone, she says, "Stephen, your father would like to see you." I said, "Okay, I'll be right over." I walk over, I go bebopping in, I was pretty carefree. And I said, "Hey, Kathy, what's up?" She didn't even look at me, pointing back to my dad's office, and I knew I was in. Kathy was always a smiling face, but she didn't look at you, you were in trouble. So I go walking back there, and walk in my dad's office, when he had the old office, and I said, "Hey, what's up?" And he said, "Close the door." And I was like, not good. So I do, and I sit down, and I said, what's the problem? He said, "I just got a call from Dutch Settler, who's here today. You want to tell me why in the hell you haven't been in class for almost a week?" I kind of looked at him, and I was thinking about what to say without him jumping across the desk and strangling me. I didn't quite do it. I think I enraged him more, and I said, "Well, you know, Dad, as an employee of the college, me being your son, I'm a beneficiary of tuition and admission, which means all I pay for is room and board and books. And I didn't buy books this semester. So really, I'm getting most of my money by staying in my dorm room." And his face turned about as red as this on him, and he almost came across the desk, and he had a couple expletives to throw my direction. He said, "You get yourself in class." But anyway, I would like to thank my father for his introductory remarks, much more brief than last year. We're happy with that. I want to thank my mother, my sisters, their family, my wife, my in-laws who are all here today. I'd like to thank Monmouth College, the M Club, and the selection committee for this induction. As Blake said, I thought he hit it on the head. This is truly a humbling experience for me to receive this recognition. For a kid growing up as a Fighting Scot, this induction holds a much different meaning for me than it does for probably many other people. See, to me, I'm not being inducted into a Hall of Fame today, but I'm being entered into a Hall of my heroes. I grew up, damn, Blake, you were right, this is tough. I grew up hearing my father rave about the iconic careers of Donovan Hunter, of Roger Sand, Roger Haynes, Mark Reed. You know, I watched intensely the evolution of Juan Mitchell, so profound that I almost couldn't accept this nomination. To be nominated to become such, or part rather of such a distinguished group of people, of athletes, of individuals who had an impact in my life that I'll ever hold on a pedestal was very difficult for me. And Coach Haynes can attest to that. I was on the fence, said I wasn't going to take it, and my wife talked me into otherwise, and my dad, and so forth, so I'm glad I did. My father used to highlight the players I just mentioned, and a lot of other players, when he stressed to me the distinction between the extraordinary players and the ordinary players, and how I needed to strive to emulate their strengths and diminish their weaknesses. He used to push me to carry on and seek greater goals to achieve, because that's what these guys all did. He never relented in embedding in me the drive to be better than I was yesterday. For that, I'm not only grateful to my father, but I'm grateful to have had such wonderful athletes to aspire to be like. Now, I must acknowledge that, although I appreciate the honor attendant with this induction, I maintain no lasting memories of individual successes. Rather, cemented in my recollection are the memories of competing day after day in two sports, the memories of being mentally unbreakable in the face of my detractors, and the memories of playing through fatigue and pain, and generally being tougher than the moment. I can attribute everything we celebrate here today to those lasting memories, as well as the lessons taught to me by my teammates, many former Fighting Scots, and other college staff, all who mentored me without even knowing it. Won't go into too many stories, but I will share a couple. I can remember Coach Haynes used to come out and feed the pitching machine for me. I was about 11 years old, and Coach Haynes come out and he cranked the velocity up to about 75 or 80 miles an hour. And occasionally, if he was having a rough day, one of the pitches, he'd kind of aim the machine so I'd get hit by the pitch. And as I kind of step out and grab a hold of myself because the ball was coming in at such velocity, Coach Haynes would yell down at me, "Get back in there, Tinkerbell." I quickly learned that some days you're the pigeon, some days you're the statue. So dig in, stick it out, and you'll be better for it. There's also a guy named Rich Well. Rich Well taught me to have thick skin. When for a couple years, I'd say, he would make fun of how exceptionally large my head was. I was like the human version of a bobblehead. And I was 6 years old, and no matter what was going on, anytime I walked by him, Rich Well would start chanting, head my body. You got more head than you got body. And he was right. I've seen some old pictures. But I quickly learned to just keep on keeping on. That's what you had to do. John Herman taught me what it felt like to be loved and have family outside of my biological family. He treated me like a little brother. And I felt the love in each of the whoopings he'd give me in the back of the van when I cussed my dad out when we were taken from the game. To Coach Haynes, Rich Well, John Herman, and a lot of many others who I haven't mentioned here today, I wouldn't change a single experience. I had the pleasure of being around some really wonderful people. And I was also around John Herman. But all of whom shaped me, and all of whom deserve some credit for any accolades cast my direction. Like most athletes, I had the dream to play Division I basketball and baseball, but looking back, I'm reluctant to believe such an experience would have been as joyous or remarkable as my time as a Fighting Scot. I was fortunate to have the support of my family throughout my career, and a very unique and, I'd say, memorable experience playing for my father. It was rich with character development and invaluable to my future opportunities. This induction focuses on capturing a brief timestamp of my life, but the symbolism of what it means resides in my everyday. Again, I'm thankful for this honor. I offer my congrats to both Nicole and Blake. Both honors are well deserved. Thank you.
Over here, I just want to say, Kim, I I know he's younger than you. I'm still working on getting you in, so keep the payments coming. As we conclude here today, I do want to recognize a group. I want to recognize one individual. First of all the student athletes that got up early and showed up today. Please stand up. Also, want to give a shout out to someone that's meant a lot to this college. And we talked about people that are strong-willed and warriors. And just want to recognize at this time, Coach Sander. Coach Sander, glad to see you back. Don't forget, we're going to, weather permitting, have a parade at 11 today. And inductees, want to make sure you're down at the end of the hall at 10:30 to be ready to go in that. Hopefully, we won't have any rain. There's also a football game at 2 o'clock today, right? Versus Knox. So that's interesting. So we want to get 2 victories today against Knox, right? Awesome. Blake, Nicole, Steve, congratulations. Your induction here into the Monmouth College M Club Hall of Fame is now permanent. It's well deserved. And we want to also thank everyone for being here, for showing up. We invite you back every year. Enjoy the festivities today, and go Scouts.